What is up, everybody? Wanted to do a different type of video. I know I do a bunch of endgame build videos, but wanted to do a character creation video just in case there's any new players out there watching. So I'm going to walk through the character creation video. If you played DDO for a while, this probably seems boring and repetitive, so feel free to skip to a different video. But if you're newer to the game, hopefully this helps out some. So, creating your first character, or in this term, just reincarnating one of my current ones. Clicking out which option you want here. You've got melee, which ends up being fighter, barbarian, paladin, monk. Spell, which ends up being sorcerer, cleric, wizard, favorite soul, druid, warlock. And specialist, which is everything else. So I am actually going to do a sorcerer life next. So go here. Path, I normally stick away from these, even as new players. I've never used these or heard much people using them. You can try them out if you want, but I think if you just look enough on DDO Wiki or watch a little bit of the game, you can pick it up yourself. Race. So choosing your race, I normally do it now currently by what racial action points I want to spend. If you're a character who doesn't have racial action points, you could be looking into more what races give stat bonuses, what give extra skill bonuses. Maybe you want to go human because you need that extra feat to make out your character. But normally, nowadays, since I've got enough racial action points, I go by that. Before then, I used to care more about stats and feats, just to kind of give you an idea of what you're thinking. So I am actually going to go half elf for the sorcerer. Alright, going to stats. So obviously stats are important. You want to go to what is your most important stats per build. So when you're talking sorcerer, it is going to be charisma because that's your spellcasting stat. I could go through all the classes here. That'd be quite some time, but pretty basic. If you're a melee, like a fighter or a barbarian, you're going to be after strength. If you're a dex build, like an archer, ranger, rogue, you could even be a dex monk if you really wanted to be something out of the box. Con is just for health and dwarfs, in terms of if you're going to be like a dwarf barbarian. But con is normally a great secondary stat because it is your health. Intel is for your intel spellcasters, your rogues, and for if you were after skill points. Wisdom is for your divine casters and your nature casters. And charisma is for your sorcerer, warlocks, bards, casting abilities, and can be favorite soul too. So anyways, I'm going to max out my charisma here. Next, I'm going to dump some points into con. I think 12 or 14 con is normally plenty. I normally don't go lower than that. I normally don't really go higher than that because once you start getting into points, so 8 through 14 is worth 1 point here. So you see we go up to 14, only lose 6 points. After that, 15 is worth 2, 16 is worth 2, and once you go higher than that, they are worth 3 each. So normally 14 is about where I stop for con because I think there's more value in just spreading your points around. So here as a sorcerer, I'm actually going to get some intel as well because I like some extra skill points as well as extra bonus into your spellcraft skill because that's just flat spell power for your sorcerer. So after here, I still have 8 points, so that's quite a bit. You could go into Dex for AC, reflex, and kind of gives you the breakdown here. If you're trying to hit certain feats, that's normally where I look next. Strength is useless to me as a sorcerer, so I'm not going to dump any points into there. Wisdom is just for will saves. You could, wouldn't be a terrible choice, but I do think you're not going to get your will save high enough to make it matter as a sorcerer. So I don't worry about it too much. So here with the extra points, I'm probably actually going to, and I actually haven't built out my feat path for this yet, so I'm probably just going to do con and intel. So nice easy 3-stat build. Skill points, so this is where I was talking about how intel matters. So I've got 20 skill points. If I came back and only did a 14 intel, say I put that there, now I've only got 16 skill points. So if you don't have enough skill points for what you're looking for, adjust your intel. Skill points, I always consider UMD as a must-have, regardless of what your class is. I always put 1 point into tumble so that you can tumble. Otherwise, you'll be animation locked and can't do it. And then after that, it's really up to you how you want to do this. Sorcerer spellcraft is obviously great. Bluff or diplomacy, I'll go bluff since it's a class skill, so you can double it. So see how diplomacy only gives you half points because it's not a class skill. And then I've got some extra points here. So I am actually going to go into haggle because I will probably sit on endgame for a little bit to make some extra money. And then your last couple points, it's kind of up to you. Normally concentration early on helps, but end game you're going to be using Quicken, so it's not going to matter. So I normally will go into another talking, whether it's Diplo or Intimidate, or if you really want to put a few points in the jump to make your life easier on if you don't have Strength Tomes or something like that, because you will get the jump spell, but if you still need some extra boost after that, you can be using that if you're a first life character. So Feats here. This build's actually going to be around the Dragon Mark Storm. I'm not trying to make a build video here. I'll do that later on. I was just trying to do more of the process of how to make a build. So I'm actually going to not get that yet. I'm going to look for my feats and maximize the first one I'm going to take. And for my half elf, I actually didn't think this through yet. Interesting. So I'm going to take this one just for the spell power, probably. You know, my thought process here is I wasn't talking spell power, extra saves if I'm really going to level it up in the tree, which I don't think I will. It's an imbue toggle. I didn't even know that was one. That's interesting. But I am going to go for the flat spell power. Then choosing your spells. Again, pretty straightforward. Whatever you're wanting to do early on. I'm actually going to be an electric sorcerer, but your electric spells early on are not the greatest. So, and then finally, you need to make your character. There's a ton of options through here, whatever you like. Unless there's something really specific I'm looking for, I normally just try to randomize until I find one that I like relatively well, and then might just tweak it a little bit. Yep, that one looks good for me for this life. And then finally, your alignment recommendations. Unless you are specifically after some kind of items that are alignment based, I normally stay neutral, just so there's no end game monsters or enemies that have certain favor damage to good or certain favor damage to chaotic or lawful. A lot of times I'll stay neutral. Like, for example, I know the Demon Queen's one that just destroys lawful. She uses Chaos Blades, so she just tears up lawful people. I know that's not quite endgame, but it's up there. So as a sorcerer, I'm not really after anything that's specific alignment based, so I will just stay true neutral. And then that is it. If there's any other questions you have about the character building process, feel free to leave a comment. I would love to help out any new players out there, as I think this game would be so much better if we could expand it a bit or get some server mergers in there to make the servers a little more populated. But that was the point of the video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're new and have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them and I will answer them best I can. Thanks. Catch you next time.